Welcome to the Taylor Made Tasty podcast. I'm Taylor, retired serial quitter turned goal boss coach, speaker, and consultant. I believe a beautiful life starts with a beautiful mindset. Join me as we amplify confidence, resilience, and actionable tools on the road to quit quitting on you and your vision. You are worthy of your goals, so let's go get there. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Taylor Made Tasty, the podcast. We have a very special guest today on the pod, someone I am lucky enough to call my love, my soulmate, my lumber, my dearest husband, Dustin. We came into each other's lives at a very weird time, a turning point, if you will, where we were stuck in a rut of unreliable friends, the need to always be out and drinking, and just unaware of the big things we wanted out of life. In our 5+ years together, we have walked through fire side by side. I becoming a new bonus mom to his daughter Peyton, losing Dustin's precious mother, moving in together while navigating grief, almost instantly hit again by becoming full-time caretakers of Dustin's grandfather with stage 4 lung cancer for 15 months and losing him in our home, along with dealing with grief and anxiety between Dustin and heavily weighing on Peyton too. We got engaged right before the pandemic hit, wedding planning during that horrendous time. We ended up just eloping in October of 2020, and in 2021, we made the big decision, along with my mom, to pack up and move our lives from California to Texas, on what ended up being the craziest and most trying adventure of our lives. We are now settled with our cute rescue doggy Montana in Texas Hill Country, and trying to build a big life for ourselves and little Peyton girl while co-parenting out of state. Please welcome a 6'5", bearded, tall drink of whiskey husband, Dustin, to Taylor Made Tasty, the podcast. Hi, Pootie Bear. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. I feel so special.
I know.
It's like I've never been in this room before.
Welcome to your homes.
Welcome to the adjacent room.
Yes. Hi.
It's so different. All the bright lights and glitter, glitz and glam.
So how do you feel about Peyton being on the show before you?
I mean, that's a little upsetting, but she's pretty cool, so I guess I'll allow it.
She's the coolest, let's be real. She's cooler than both you and I. Right?
Yeah, which is kind of disappointing. I mean, I'm half responsible for her, but she's cooler than me. It doesn't make sense.
That's true. So I put a question box on Instagram, and the first question...
An appropriate question or an inappropriate question?
I mean, they could do whatever they want, but they were appropriate.
I'm disappointed with your viewers.
I know, it's fine. So you put the question box on there, and the first question was, how did you meet? And that's a funny story. It's a long story, I feel like, so let's just condense it. But how it all started, I love to say, is at the beginning of our bridal shower, we had a big poster on the wall that said, "It all started with a vodka soda."
Or 10.
Or 10. A few doubles. But we could also say it all started with a pack of cougars.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, if you want to get into the first time, like the first time we ever met, yeah, when you refused to speak to me because you were, blinded by my baby beard.
I was enamored.
Some cougars tried to steal me away.
That's true.
With shots and the promise of, I don't live that far if you want to walk us home.
Oh, yes, the little baby cub.
Yeah. I'm not that, but you can't say a little baby cub.
Okay,
like, I'm a giant cub.
They wanted a grizzly bear to go home with their cougar? I don't know.
I was scared for my life, and I was in no way, shape, or form in the right mindset to deal with that much attention.
Well, yeah, it's really funny. So Peyton knows that my song for you is Taylor Swift's Gorgeous, because, the lyrics say, I can't say anything to your face because look at that face. And it really was. I mean, you walked in, and I was sitting with my girlfriends, and I thought, I need that man on me. Like, I don't care how he's on me. I just need this tall drink of whiskey on me with your, like, yes, it was a baby beard. Oh my gosh, it was a baby beard. But you had a beard, and your hair was a bit longer than it is now, right?
You just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, a bit longer than it was now. And you walked in with
had a hat on.
Kelly Kapowski shirt.
Yep.
So
I knew what I was
happened.
doing.
Saved by the Bell. And some camo cargo shorts. A whole vibe.
Apparently I needed a lot of things in my pockets.
It was holding your hopes and dreams in your pockets. And so, yeah, we don't chat then.
No, I chatted to your friends, but you refused to speak to me. You would just like awkwardly smile at me and not say a word when I asked you questions.
That's pretty on brand.
I was like a leper.
So this is my bar. This is like my watering hole. I've never seen you there before. And all of a sudden you show up. And then weeks later, you pop up because you work there?
Yeah.
Do you remember my, like, deer in headlights, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed? I just looked at you.
Your look of absolute confusion that I had a bar shirt on.
Yeah, you had a bar shirt on. I looked at you, looked at the shirt, and you just walked by me with the biggest smile.
Oh,
you knew what you were doing.
I know I gave you probably the dumbest little, like, yep, she's looking at me smile. I don't always have game. I'm really kind of an awkward individual because I just don't like people, but nah, I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Every now and then.
I would agree. But you did. You had some game with me. I'll admit that. I played hard to get, and so did you. And then we just...
Did you play that hard to get?
Well, I guess...
You wanted me to be your weighted blanket. I don't think you played that hard to get.
The first time I met you, I was playing hard to get, and then I was fueled by vodka at that point, right?
Yeah,
so
they probably should have cut you off.
You started working there,
yes.
And then a few weeks later, there's this festival in Orange on Labor Day weekend called the International Street Fair, and they shut down the circle, and it's all just drinking, eating shenanigans for 3 days straight.
Yes.
And we love it. And so you are working there because it's one of the busiest weekends.
Always went to that event my whole life. That was the first time, though, I worked in a bar during it, and it was debauchery.
Right.
I worked, I don't know how many hours in 3 days picking up double shifts for people, but it was not great.
So the perfect storm happens, though. So I'm there with friends, and for some reason, on this Sunday night, it was pretty dead. Like, there wasn't a ton of people in the bar.
No.
Where this is a very small bar, and when it's packed, you literally cannot walk anywhere.
Yeah.
So there was space to spread out, if you will. We were at this big booth. I was able to sort of dance around, get up, get drinks, whatever, like, have my space. So... with that, you were working the door that was closest to the booth, and we got to chat a little bit more because, again, I was, had that vodka confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You started trying to chat me up quite a bit.
Yeah, and...
I don't know if you remember any of it, but you tried to chat me up quite a bit.
Well, what I remember is the respectable hip-holding situation. So it was like you wanted to move to the booty, but you were like being respectable. I was like, this is a stand-up guy.
Even though I was sitting.
Touch my ass.
The truth comes out.
Yeah, good times. So we talked about your outfit. I mean, my outfit that night was quite a winner.
Yeah. Ridiculously expensive sandals that you came upon.
Yes.
Like tight jeans, thong hanging out,
gosh,
a lacy black top, and then a Britney Spears like work bitch trucker hat with your platinum blonde full of extensions hair.
Y'all. I was platinum blonde is right. I had this idea to go platinum blonde and then cut it all off. It was like at my chin short. And I immediately regretted that decision. And
It's normally what happens when you chop all your hair off.
And I ran straight to West Hollywood and bought $400 worth of platinum blonde extensions and then had to put them in my hair every day because I hated my short hair.
I have owned $400 cars. Just to put that into perspective.
No, I know. It's not.
This was the women's version of a toupee.
And the hair, just even at the quality level, it just gets everywhere.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the things I definitely remember when we first started dating was every car that I owned had Taylor hair in it. Even cars that I don't think you had been in yet somehow still had your blonde hair in it.
I was marking my territory.
By shedding.
So we don't meet. We actually speak to each other on that Sunday. We take our very first photo, which I posted on Instagram recently.
I look like a child.
Adorable.
I look like a child.
Adorable. And then we exchanged numbers.
Yes.
And we exchanged Snapchats.
Normally...
This was the time of Snapchat. Although the cool young kids, I think, still snap, but we were snapping 5 years ago. Right?
So that, yeah, I guess, yeah. That was that long ago. No, that's definitely... Wow, no, we did snap. Good God. We did use Snapchat.
Okay, so we exchanged phone numbers,
yeah.
And then that's Sunday. I don't hear from you until Friday.
I was playing hard to get.
Mm-hmm. So you admit it.
I fell in the ditch.
Yeah. I'm sure.
I was that little kid that fell in the well.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So then we just start chatting, hanging out, and the rest is history, right? And now we're married. Fast forward to we're married.
Yay!
End of episode. No, but one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on here is people get to know you through Instagram. You have a lot of those awkward, well, you did in California. You had a lot of those awkward, hey, I know you. Typically, they would spot Dustin first, and then they would look around for me and be like, oh my gosh, like, I know you. Or they call him Lumber to his face. Oh, you're the lumber sexual.
There was more than one occasion where they actually either said my name or they said Lumber, and then I looked and it's like, I have no idea who you are.
Right. This has happened at Lazy Dog, Trader Joe's. Like, we have been out and about in
Ducks
public.
game.
And, yeah, Ducks game. And we have seen people that recognize him, which is hysterical. But I wanted to sort of get real, get raw, pull the veil off, Instagram versus reality, if you will, and talk about mental health and men and mental health and how, honestly, it's not something that is really talked about. And we had a really raw conversation about a week ago, and you got vulnerable. And I think when someone looks at you, they think, oh, that's a man's man, and he's strong and fearless and all of these things that you are, but you've also been put in situations in your life where it's required that you are very in touch with your feelings and your emotions because of the cards that you've been dealt.
Yeah. Or kind of lack thereof. With feelings and emotions, it wasn't anything that I ever talked about or discussed. Like you said, big, strong man. I mean, it was kind of always instilled. I mean, especially at an impressionable. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Age that, you know, being strong and a guy and everything else, you don't really talk about it. You just kind of bottle it up and keep it in.
Right.
I was never in a situation where I was encouraged really to talk about it.
Well, and I think the person that you would be encouraged to talk about it with is no longer with us.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So, some insight into your life. Where does hardship start? Like, where can you pinpoint hardship starting in your life? Loaded question.
As far back as I can remember.
Right.
Childhood, not easy. Childhood divorce. My dad, not a good guy. Verbally and physically abusive. Ended in a very aggressive and very loud kind of divorce, I guess is the best way to put it. It wasn't, nice and quiet and both parties just went, yeah, you're right, this is a good decision. No, it was real ugly and not fun. But, I was 9, so I only remember so much. Most of the other stuff kind of block out. But that was really the first, when you think back of, like, when shit kind of hit the fan, that you can remember some of your first early memories. That was one of mine, was not great things from a childhood perspective.
So, 9 years old, the divorce happens, and then you move on, and life seems to be
normal.
Somewhat normal.
I mean, I was a pain-in-the-ass kid, because clearly...
That played into your life.
Oh, 1,000% it did. So I definitely was a little rebel, a little troublemaker.
Right.
Kind of always pushing the limits a little bit with what I can get away with.
And during this time, not only is your mother a very big part of your life, but also your grandparents, yes?
Yeah, after the divorce and everything happened, we lived with my grandparents off and on, like, multiple times. The reason why I know half the things that I know are, you always say I'm an old soul, or,
yes.
You just like to call me old, is because of them. I mean, they raised me just as much as my mother did. I had a beautiful relationship with them, and I'm very blessed and lucky that happened. Most people don't get that with their grandparents, but I remember them taking me to school when I was even in, like, kindergarten, running out of class, and my grandparents are sitting there in their Oldsmobile waiting for me.
I love that.
Normally we'd go get Carl's Jr. or something, because that was one of the things I liked.
Chicken stars?
Fuck yeah, I'd get chicken stars.
Oh yeah. Alright,
I'm an adult and I will still buy chicken stars. Anytime Peyton wants that, oh dude, you got it. Let's get some chicken stars.
Okay, so then you have an incredible relation. Oh, one of my favorite things is that when you were to get in trouble, that grandma would pull you into the kitchen, and that was your punishment.
Yes, my punishment was, you get to sit here and help me cook, which I guess kind of worked out. Clearly I was in trouble a lot.
Lots of kitchen time.
Well, yeah, I can cook now, so it's fine.
I love it. Okay, so then let's fast forward to age 17.
Ooh, rebellious years. 17 was honestly a kind of a clusterfuck. I had stopped playing football, which was because of injuries and other things, which led to problems with school, which technically at 17, I was a junior. I had been told that is going to be my last year at that school because I was getting kicked out. I wasn't allowed to come back. And I also got very just weird news one day. Got called into the office, and they had received a phone call that my dad had actually passed away, which couldn't tell you the last time before that I had thought about it or, put it in my mind whatsoever, and now you're flooded.
So from 9 to 17, your dad has not made any contact or tried to contact you guys?
No.
Okay. So this is the first time that you're
dealing with him kind of whatsoever for, what's that, almost 10 years? So like 8 years?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what was the immediate reaction?
Kind of just confusion. It's like, why are they calling the school to tell me this? Like, this is something that I feel like my mom would have called me about. Like, at this time, our whole family had cell phones. Like, it's weird that it went to the school and not through my mom.
Yeah, that is weird.
So, yeah, we always look back at it as my dad's girlfriend, she's the one who had called, was kind of just trying to stir the pot a little bit.
Okay. So what happens after this phone call?
Kind of a whirlwind of stuff, because it's somehow we became responsible for his funeral and the costs and planning it and everything else. I mean, my mom did all of it. I know it tore my mom up more than it tore us, because she had loved that person for a long time. I mean, she ignored all the shit that he did, but yeah, we kind of took over it all. Like, it got dropped on us. This person who we haven't had to deal with in almost a decade now, we have to plan his entire funeral and everything else behind it.
And your mom was such a sweet, pure soul that she wanted to see the good in everybody. And
unfortunately.
It was almost to her detriment when it came to your father.
Yes. She suffered more than she needed to, because she wanted to see the good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's a piece of your story. That situation with your father happens. You guys are put in the driver's seat with the funeral plans, and then everything that happens around funerals, right?
Yeah.
And seeing people you haven't seen in years.
Yeah, family that I haven't seen since the last time I saw my dad. So all my uncles, aunts, my other grandmother, just stuff that I haven't had to deal with these people in so long that it was almost like a re-meeting them for like the first time of like, oh wait, yeah, I know who you are. Holy hell, you're big now. Yeah, it's been a while type of conversations, to where it's a little bit awkward, a little bit kind of nice to reconnect with these people, but at the end of the day, it's like, this is all just a fucking weird situation. Like,
well, or almost like a horse and pony show. Like, they're showing up because it's almost this obligation, but did they put in effort with you before or after that time?
Exactly. And that's, looking back on it now, it's almost half a life ago for me. It's almost comical, because it's, once that day happened, they went back to zero contact. Mm-hmm. So it's okay, why did you care during that about what the hell I was doing?
Right.
So
okay, so then that's 17.
Yep.
So that you mentioned you were kicked out of your initial high school, and
yes.
Your senior year was spent...
My senior year was spent in a different high school.
With strangers.
Yes.
So your class that you had gone to school with, some of them since... Kindergarten.
Yep.
You are now ripped away from them because of your decisions that you made in life.
1000%.
And one thing I do really commend you for is that you take ownership of your decisions.
1000%.
And I think that it would be very easy, as we go through your story and your mental health and everything, for you to lean on, I did this because of this, but you always take ownership of the decisions that you made.
I didn't need any other crutches or excuses as to why I was doing the dumb stuff that I was doing. I knew what I was doing. They were my own dumb decisions. Were they the right decisions? No, but they're mistakes that I made and grew from. Hell, that's life. Right. I'm not going to make the best choice every single time, but you get up and you learn from it.
Resilience, baby. Okay, so then you finish high school somewhere else, and then we're in Peyton zone. We find out at the ripe age of
20 years old.
20 years old.
That I'm going to be a dad to a little girl.
And you find out when Peyton's mom is...
5 months pregnant.
5 months pregnant.
20 weeks.
No idea.
No idea. Either one of us. No idea.
And boom. This is what's happening.
Yeah, so most people, it's planned. So you're going into this like, yeah, let's try to get pregnant, blah, 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 blah. And then it's, yay, we have 9 months to get ready. No, I had 4 months to figure out my life.
Yes. And how was telling your mother?
It wasn't great. It definitely was very difficult. I don't know which was worse, telling her or telling my grandparents. Because I always felt like, I didn't want to disappoint my grandparents more than my mom. My mom's my mom. She's always going to love me. But grandparents...
It's a different level.
They had just seen some shit, and it's the last thing I want to do is add more stuff to them.
I know, but it's almost like you just... For your grandparents, you just want to be your best version of you. Like, you just want them to see... Because you see them with such loving eyes that they're just like these perfect people that you want them to see you the same way, and that disappointment is so much more real, I feel like, with your grandparents, where you make a good point, like, okay, Mom, like, unconditional love, I know.
You're stuck with me.
But the grandparents piece, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So you're afraid to tell them both. Are they in the same room?
No, I told them at 2 separate times.
Okay, so we tell Mom first?
Told Mom first.
Okay.
And then I remember going to my grandparents' house, I think a couple days later, when I had like a day off, drove up there and I sat them down and talked to them about it. I mean, they both had the same basic reaction. They were terrified for me, but excited because they thought about it as, okay, I'm going to have a grandkid, or I'm going to have a great-grandkid around, type of thing. So it's, and I think, I mean, they could have cursed my name after I left, but they didn't do any of that in front of me. My grandparents and my mom, my mom, she probably could have given me a little bit more grief, but she didn't. I don't know if it's just because I'm the baby or what, but...
Well, there was definitely the threat of, if you do this again, you're...
Oh, she did threaten.
Done,
she did threaten to cut my junk off. So sweet little Annette definitely threatened to cut it off if this happened again without being married. Yeah, that was a real threat from her. Tiniest little lady, but I kind of took that one seriously.
So then we have Peyton.
Yes, happy 21st birthday to me.
And how does that? You talked about being a rebel and doing some dumb shit. How does Peyton coming into your life change it?
It changed every aspect of it. Now all my dumb shit doesn't just affect me, it affects her. So Peyton was a blessing and a curse. You know, at 21 you don't want to have a kid. Not married, you don't really want to have a kid. You're trying to figure out your life at that age, and apparently what my life was going to be was you're going to be a dad. Which now looking back, it probably was destined to happen because of the people that now are no longer in my life and in Peyton's life. Mm-hmm. So I think it needed to happen that long ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, hell, this is 10 years ago at this point. So it changed, though. It changed my mentality because I never wanted her to experience anything that I ever did. So I can sit here and talk about all day.
From a parenting perspective.
Exactly. Yeah, from a parenting perspective. I can sit here and talk all day about, I feel like most people can if it's a really ugly divorce and they have really issues with their father. They never taught me anything. Like, they never showed me how to do this. They were terrible, blah, blah, blah. Well, I can say that he showed me something. He showed me how not to be a dad.
Yeah.
So all I had to do was take everything that he did and just do the exact opposite. And I should be fine. I mean, I'm 10 years, almost 11 years into this now, and it seems to be working. I mean, I've added other people to the equation, but it's still the basic premise. Don't do what the fuck he did.
She
be
loves
better.
Her daddy. My goodness. He can do no wrong. Okay, so I have the best story. So,
oh God.
When we first started dating, pretty early on, but after I met Peyton, so we waited, a good 6 months for me to meet her.
Yeah, like 5-6 months.
And so we're at one of Peyton's friends' birthday parties, and you tell her to get out of the pool. You're like, we're going to go home, like, get out of the pool. And I'm like, the party's not over. Like, let her stay in the pool. And so I tell her, I'm like, Peyton, you can put your bathing suit back on and go back into the pool. She immediately starts running around the house going, my daddy's the best daddy in the whole world. I'm like, hello, me. Taylor just said you can go back in the pool. Daddy told you to get out. But still, it's just like, She is your ride or die. Like, my dad is the best dad in the whole world.
It's okay. That's how she is now, but when she's a teenager, I'm sure that won't be the case.
We will see what that looks like, that's for sure. But
Daddy's a little protective of his little girl.
Yes, as you should be. Okay, so we have Peyton, your life changes, and then we kind of fast forward into some years where your mom's health starts to deteriorate more and more.
But before that even, when Peyton was around 2, was when we lost Grandma.
Yes, right.
So that was the first big loss, first big blow to the family was losing Grandma. Grandma had dealt with kind of her body going not so great. She had taken a fall, then a few other falls, and it just was a steady decline that then became rapid. So we lost Grandma, matriarch of the family, one of the just pillars of why we're all here.
She was a strong, independent woman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love you say we would have gotten along.
Oh, no, yeah, you would have. So my grandparents owned many businesses throughout their life. They had been married almost 70 years and had, I don't know, half a dozen businesses. Grandpa was the people person.
Yes.
So he would deal with customers, he'd deal with employees. My grandmother ran the books and was the one to fire people. So she was the no nonsense, you don't want to deal with me type of.
Love it.
Yeah.
And a big sports fan.
Yeah.
She would get cray-cray in front of the TV.
Angels and Lakers were her big ones that she'd watch.
I love it. Okay. So that
lost
happens,
Grandma.
and then your world changes again.
Yeah, so after losing Grandma, we moved Grandpa in, so then Peyton, that was a blessing. She got to blossom this relationship with her great-grandfather that most people don't get. She still remembers great-grandma, so that's good, because they got a couple years together. So we moved Grandpa in, and yeah, life's a little different. It was a blessing, though. I was working so much, making ends meet, supporting the munchkin. I'm not one to ask for handouts or help or anything like that. So
you're co-parenting in different houses.
Different houses at this point. We also are not together. So we're both single parents co-parenting from different houses. And luckily, we're both fortunate that Peyton's mom's side of the family, amazing family.
Yes.
More supportive than most people ever would be. I had my mom and grandpa, and the support there was out the window as well. So at this point, it was fantastic because Peyton got to really develop quite the relationship with my mom. My mom at that point was, preschool director. This was the last job that she wound up having. She was a preschool director for, I don't know, 5, 6, probably even closer to 10 years at this point. And so Peyton got to go to school with her every single day.
Yes.
So Peyton started preschool at 2 years old. My mom's like, nope, she's going to go. So started taking her. But by the time Peyton was 5, so her last year in preschool, she actually got to have my mom as her teacher as well. So then every day, not only am I get to see Grandma, but she's my teacher, which no kid really gets to say that.
So special, yes.
Yeah, so I have distinct memories of, because I owned a small fleet of vehicles, every now and then, they would take my truck or this, that, and the other, and then they'd stop by my work to say hi or to pick something up for me, and then you have my grandfather, my mom, and Peyton all in my car showing up to pick up God only knows what for me. I think at one point they actually picked up a jet ski from me, which was hilarious. Seeing them drive away with this bright yellow jet ski in the back of my truck while they're, driving it home.
I love it. Okay. So she's getting to build really strong bonds with both of these people because they're in your home.
Yeah.
And everybody's living together, and she's going back and forth and all of that.
Yes.
So then Well, really, your mother's health had been declining for...
Since I was probably in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Was when she got really sick, and then from that point, it was kind of a steady downhill for the next... I can't do that math that fast at the moment, but...
Over 10 years.
Yeah. Probably
Yes.
15, 16 years before she unfortunately passed.
And so this looks like arthritis so severe in her hands that they are...
In her hands and her feet.
Basically folded in half.
Yeah.
And she can no longer work.
Yeah, she finally had to stop working. Her immune system was just non-existent. So she wound up getting like an infection in her leg, which she had for a very long time before she tried to do anything about it, which was another one of her downfalls, was that she never wanted to inconvenience anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was, her father, so my grandfather, or her kids or anybody, she never wanted to be an inconvenience. This was exactly how my grandmother was too. Those strong women also just
want to take care of everybody else.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think the years that my mom spent with my father also didn't help, because then she didn't feel like she could say anything.
Absolutely. She definitely had vibes of feeling unworthy.
1,000%.
And that is from years and years of being told that, I'm sure.
Oh.
Over being told that, being treated like that, all of that.
Yeah.
And so at some point you start to believe people. And you think, I don't want to inconvenience anybody. I don't want to tell anybody about this. And then it got to a point where it was almost an embarrassment about how bad it got.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
So you were helping with wound care at
Mm-hmm.
home. She was now almost bedridden in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
To that point.
It got really bad. And then it got to the point where that infection in her leg had gotten so bad that they told her that it was in her bone. At that point, once it's in your bone, the only thing that they suggest is amputation. So then she had to, go through one of the hardest surgeries for even healthy people to deal with, and that is a right around the knee amputation.
And at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, but she's somewhere in the 70 or 90 pound range.
Somewhere in there, yeah. She's under 100 pounds.
Very tiny.
Yeah.
Very frail.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the most intense days. Dustin and I were not together super long.
No, that was very early on.
I remember distinctly being in that room after the amputation, and the phantom pain was so real, and the terror, the pain, it was so bad. You just want to hug her and make her feel better. And
everything hurt, though.
Yeah, so bad. So, like you said, really hard for an extremely healthy person to go through, and really hard on her tiny body.
Yeah.
So that happens. She immediately goes into a rehab center with the idea and hope that she would
come home.
Yeah, she would be rehabilitated. She would do the work. So the center was set up that she was staying there, she was eating there, she was also able to have
physical therapy and
physical
stuff.
Therapy on site,
mm-hmm.
and that she would have a regimen with that.
Yeah. That's how it was described in the beginning, was that she'll be here for a little while, but the whole point is to get her out of here and get her home.
Right.
The thing is, though, that never happened.
So she shows signs of defeat. She's showing signs of defeat by not really wanting to do the physical therapy, eating less and less, which we actually didn't find out till much later.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing, is that, Grandpa was there with her every day.
Yeah, and so she would sort of move food around or offer it to Grandpa to eat as well, because they would actually feed him every day. He would go there every single day for lunch, and they would feed him and her at the same time. And then we were sort of instructed by doctors that she should be taking in as many calories as possible, and she loved her sweets.
Oh, yeah. If there was one thing that she wouldn't say no to, was sweets, so...
So we got Frappuccinos flowing.
I started buying boxes of Milky Way Midnights that she could just keep
in bulk
in her drawer.
Yes. So that's all happening. And then one of the most, just the time that stands out is she's, like we just talked about, these strong, independent women, right? And she, I think on her side, it was more of I don't want to ask someone to help me. And so she has a situation where she drops a pen while she's sitting in her wheelchair in the hallway of the rehab center. And instead of asking for help, she goes to grab it. And obviously, her balance is off.
Yes, 1,000% it's off.
And so she ends up falling out of her chair.
Mm-hmm. Smacks her head pretty good.
Yeah, gets beat up there. And... so over time, that starts to play into her mindset. And we're starting to sort of figure out that she's telling you different stories than she's telling your sister, your brother, grandpa.
Everybody's getting a different version of what the actual truth is.
Right.
Which we also didn't find out until after, and we were all sitting in the same room and could talk about it.
Right, and so she's, putting on a brave face when we go there.
She's definitely playing it up, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. So, then she is transported to a hospital because she has a pretty severe UTI. And she needs to be treated for that and put on liquids and just get a little bit more hydrated, right?
Yeah, I think that was basically what it was rehydration and just getting her a little bit more stable.
With antibiotics and stuff. So, while she's there, she's requesting one of her favorite Mexican food places.
Yep.
And we're like, is this lady out of her mind? Like, we were even saying to ourselves and her, like, should we get a Jamba Juice? Should we get her
anything
smoothie?
else that you could possibly want?
Why does she want this, like, heavy shredded beef? She just loved Bobby D's in Orange. If you ever go there, check them out. It's one of our favorite places. And so we get this whole big old Mexican meal and we take it to her. And we are astounded by how much she eats of that.
Yeah, I think we got her 2 tacos and she just blew through them.
And she's very with it in this moment, right? Very with it.
Yeah, kind of reminded us of, like, old mom and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She was cracking jokes and being funny, laughing
even
with the
nurses and stuff. She was being silly. It was...
a side we haven't seen in quite a while, so we really had hope that something was going to change.
Yes. So, then days later, you receive a phone call from your sister.
Yeah, so Danielle called me like 8 o'clock at night, freaking out because while she was on the phone with the nurse, getting kind of like the update and whatnot that, she normally would do. She'd talk to the nurses and stuff. We would all kind of randomly talk to them. She heard something in the background that didn't sound good. So she called me freaking out, asking me if I could haul ass to the hospital because she's thinking the worst. So I get in my car, drive way too fast. I call you to have you meet me over there because I don't know what's going on.
Yes. And it was this sort of destiny situation, if you will, that typically on Monday nights I am at Zumba. And when I was at Zumba, I would put my phone away. And I didn't have a watch at that time, to be able to check in. I really would not look at it for an hour. And 8 o'clock is exactly when that class starts. So it would have been a whole hour that I wouldn't have been able to be there to support you. But I walked up to the door and it was canceled for that night for some random reason. And I got that phone call. We virtually got there around the same time. And we are met with, fill out this paperwork so we can get you a wristband.
Yeah, I need you to sign in. I need to see your ID. I need to this. I need to that. Meanwhile, I'm trying not to physically assault this security guard because I'm thinking the worst. So it's okay, just let me get back there and see my mother. Like, why are you asking me 50,000 questions? I remember screaming at them, like, yes. I think my mom is literally dying. Let me the fuck in the door.
So I sort of have to get Dustin to the side, and I'm talking to her, and I'm just trying to be it's so stupid in that moment, but I'm just trying to be, like, a reasonable person, right? Like, she's just doing her job. Like, can you just hurry up so we can get back there? So we get these wristbands, and we go back there, and we're in ICU now. So it is just so confusing. There's nurses, and we're not sure where she is, and I'm talking to somebody, or I'm trying to talk to somebody, you're trying to talk to somebody, I'm screaming down the hallway because nobody's really giving us any sort of information, and someone walks around me.
Someone walks around you to talk to me and then says that, like, I'm so sorry, but she's gone. And then mass panic because it's what are you talking about? Like, what are you telling me right now? And then, they kind of had to is just like, we tried, and we still had, at that point, not sure what happened. They didn't fully say what was going on. The nurse talking to you said that they tried. They just told me, I'm sorry, she's gone. Like, nobody said what, you need to hear in that, which is my mom alive or is my mom passed? And then they finally just said it, and then I just remember getting all foggy and breaking down in the hallway.
It's like this slow motion out of a movie experience where I whip around and Dustin is just falling to the floor. And you never ever want to experience that. So following that is all the bullshit typical things that have to happen, like calling other people who live out of state, who aren't there with you, who grandpa is home with
Peyton.
Because
I had
Dustin,
to leave her.
Yeah, ran out of the house basically.
Yeah, I had to tell him I have to go.
So
then we had to call Peyton's mom to have her come pick up Peyton because we didn't know when we were going to be home, nor were we going to be in a good place mentally to, hide that from her.
And how do you tell 93-year-old grandpa that his daughter is gone?
His only daughter, his oldest child,
So
after knowing, what we already know, where it's, at this point, he hasn't had the love of his life for a handful of years now. So it's
his girls.
Yep. Another blow.
So that day happens.
Mm-hmm.
Days later, you're at the memorial site for 4 to 6 hours, choosing every little possible detail about her service and
getting asked the same question 75 times, and having to pick the simplest things of, like, wardrobe, how do you want hair, how do you want this, how do you want that, and you're sitting there just in a fog, like, this isn't what I should be doing right now. Why am I sitting here listening to you ask me all of these different questions, and then at the end of it, hand me a bill and go, how do you want to pay for it?
Yeah. Which is, we talk about this a lot. One of the greatest gifts you can ever give your child is to have those decisions made and paid for.
And have those discussions with them.
Well before you are even in that.
I still have the file folders from my grandparents, and I knew every detail of their stuff before it happened. I wasn't even their child, but...
They had everything picked out and paid for.
But that was the thing that people did. People don't do it anymore. But that was what that older generation did, was they had every aspect of it planned.
It's such a gift because it's actual, like, it's agony to go through that when you are trying to grieve and decide what necklace she's gonna wear and how her hair is gonna look. Like, it's agony. So that happens in June.
A couple days after Peyton's birthday.
Mm-hmm. And about a week before her birthday.
Yep.
And in July, we decided to have the conversation about me moving in with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that would look like you, me, Grandpa, and then 50% of the time Peyton.
Also right after Mom, I had to put one of my dogs down.
Yes. Roxy. Childhood dog. Who's been around with you for...
Got her when I was like 18.
Yeah. So doggy. And then I move in. On the day that I move in, we have our friends help us with the task of switching Peyton's room to upstairs and Grandpa's room to downstairs.
Yeah, just to make it easier.
Because he's 93, he's still driving, he has a cell phone, he goes grocery shopping, and he walks upstairs every day to go to bed. So we do that, and
he didn't make sense.
That's later in July, and then in August, on a Friday, you get a phone call.
Mm-hmm. I got a phone call from Gramps' doctor saying, like, we found this thing in his lungs. Like, upon further investigation, it is stage 4 lung cancer at 93 years old. They gave him 6 weeks to 6 months to live.
And we were like, are you serious? The hits keep on coming.
Yeah, yet another thing.
Yes. So that Friday, we were supposed to go to the fair. We canceled the fair. We end up going to the hospital where he's staying, and we are bombarded with...
That's to put it nicely.
Questions and choosing hospice and deliveries scheduled of oxygen and hospital beds and
all these questions that
medications and
in your late 20s you're not prepared to answer, let alone when we just found out about this today. Like, what do you want me to do now? Like, I'm so confused.
Exactly. It's like people in their 60s haven't even dealt with this with their own parents at some point. You know, it's like how we are not prepared for this.
Yeah, and it was also so weird because it's like I'm the youngest in my family. So I have an uncle. I have 2 older siblings, but yet Grandpa really only trusted me with dealing with all of this. I don't know if it's just because of circumstance where he's in, like, our house or how it all worked, but it became so weird becoming, like, legally responsible for my grandfather. Mm-hmm. Like, this person who showed me how to do so many things in life, it's all of a sudden, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter that you're in your 20s trying to figure out life. Welcome to responsibility land.
So, pretty much the next day, we became full-time caretakers of Grandpa in our house.
They started showing up with all the equipment and a bed and this and that and
daily we have nurses coming in and out of our house to the point where we actually got cameras inside because, I mean, we have a lot of irreplaceable valuables from family over the years, heirlooms, all of that just random people are coming in and out of the house all the time.
It's honestly the weirdest aspect with hospice because you just have to have these strangers come in your house at all hours of the day.
And they're different people. It's not necessarily you're getting the same nurse every day.
He had the same nurse like 2 times a week, but then the other time was somebody else. Or if it was an emergency or a weekend call, we had different people all the time. And these are just people showing up in scrubs. It could be anybody.
True.
It's just that like feeling helpless thing of like, I have no idea what to do, what the fuck is going on, and I just have to trust that all these people are doing the right thing while I go to work all day long.
Right. And how I describe caretaking is that you're trying to make someone comfortable who's never going to be comfortable. No. He's in pain. There's one thing that happens that they try to push a medication for that creates another side effect that creates, well, I take these 3 things and now I have dry mouth. And it's insane the amount of drugs that are out there. Like, our house looked like a full-fledged pharmacy. That any symptom you had, there was something for it.
We had some of the craziest pills and liquids in our house. I mean, we had liquid morphine just in the fridge, and that became our normal.
Right.
We had every painkiller you could think. We had, stuff for everything.
Everything.
You have a runny nose? Here's 17 different pills you can take.
Totally. And serums and lotions and wipes and
it was insane. And I remember after it was all said and done, and unfortunately Grandpa did pass, it was, what do we do with all this stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, you can just bag it, take it somewhere, you can throw it away, or you can just give it to us. And it's like, we have so many different narcotics. How do you just go, oh yeah, you can kind of just do what you want with it? It's insane to me.
So, like Dustin said, 6 weeks to 6 months. And
it turned into a year and a half.
It turned into 15 months. He saw a whole nother set of holidays.
And another birthday.
He had another birthday.
Turned 94.
And it was a really trying time for you personally, but also us as a couple.
It wasn't great.
It's just we didn't even have time to have silly arguments about anything else for 15 months because every conversation we had was about Grandpa, about the energy or about the story or about he did this today or I can't take another nurse. Oh my gosh, they're calling me at work. I can't answer this. Like, I'm running back and forth from an office. I'm doing the Peyton thing. You have a super long commute. You're driving an hour and a half each way.
Yeah.
And then at nighttime, I'm trying to escape and go to cycle class where you're like, I just worked, a 12-hour day. And now I have to come home and work more. And it was just like, you haven't even begun to process everything that's happened in the year prior to that.
Yeah.
So you go directly from trying to process
loss.
Yes. Loss. And now you're sitting here at 20, well, at that time, you were 29 when Grandpa passed?
Yep.
And you have now lost both of your parents, both of your grandparents, and
the most important people in my life.
Within all the bullshit around the care of Grandpa, we lose connection with siblings.
Yep. Haven't spoken to them since Grandpa. So it's been a couple years now.
That we desired more effort on their part. We were vocal about our desire for more effort, and we were met with less than energetic responses and blame, and so we just haven't really,
it was tough,
established that relationship anymore.
No, it was that solid like year and a half from Mom to like my first real dog, Grandpa, all of that just wrapped into one. It was the hardest time I've ever had in my life. And unfortunately, you got sucked into it to where I remember times where I don't even think you and I really talked for the majority of a day, because every time we did, we were just arguing about responsibilities of who's doing this or who's doing that, or like you said, you're juggling Peyton for me with school and everything else and work and coming home to check on Grandpa and this, that, and the other, and I'm stuck in LA all day wondering, like,
what's going on?
Why the fuck am I here right now?
Well, and I think for both of us, you were feeling like, why, like, you were almost feeling bad that you brought me into this situation.
I felt terrible.
And then I'm feeling like, why did I choose to come into this situation? I had my own little perfect tiny home that I loved, living by myself, and just like the location and everything. And so there was sadness from leaving that and coming directly into this. But then also just like, we had already established such deep love that this is what you do. I think tough. We're both old souls in that way, and I think we both get that from our grandparents, that we had this really incredible vision of love from your grandparents and from my Oma and Opa, and it's like, this is what you do. You're in the thick of it, and when you choose to say yes to something, you show up to it.
It definitely do not recommend.
So, a week ago,
Well, I still got to finish everything with Grandpa.
Oh, okay. Okay, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that went on about 15 months.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God he passed in his sleep, where neither one of us were home because we had just made the decision.
Right.
We finally got it figured out that we were going to hire a full-time person. And
on Saturday. We hired a
on
full-time
Saturday,
person.
And then on Monday was her first day. Grandpa had a great day with her. They clicked, they laughed, they talked, and
he ate a full meal, full breakfast.
Yeah, and was coherent, which he hadn't been really coherent for a little while now. And it's eerily similar to how my mom was right before she passed.
Mm-hmm.
Because later that afternoon, I got a phone call from you, because you got a phone call from her saying,
I think he's
gone. He took a nap and he hasn't woken back up. And
so,
that was
it was really interesting when I showed up. She was so great, too.
She was awesome. She was
doing
fantastic.
Her laundry when I showed up. I'm like, that is not part of your deal here. But
yeah.
So, but she makes this really great point that she felt as though he was comfortable going to sleep, crossing over, if you will, because neither one of us are home. That neither one of us had to find him alone or be a part of that alone. Because realistically, had it been a somewhat quote-unquote normal day, the nurse would have came in, and then when I came home, I would have been with Peyton, and it would have been her and I that found him.
No, and thinking back, that would have crushed me even more than anything else, as if it happened and nobody was there. That.
I agree.
That's not.
I agree. So, And he loved people. He was like, you already mentioned that. Like, he just loved people. Any single person, he would always just sit down and he wanted to have a conversation.
He would chat up whoever, anytime.
It's almost like, you know, he did what he loved right before he went. And he met somebody new and he was able to talk to her. And
yep. One of my best friends was like, he just brought it up not that long ago of going to Angel games and Grandpa just sitting there chatting us up. Because that's what he did. That's what he loved to do. I mean, that's why he worked there for so long and why everybody loved him. He won I don't know how many awards for, you know, being management style stuff of every year just because everybody loved him.
Yeah, definitely. He lived a very, very full life.
Oh, yeah.
So then we have his service, which is beautiful, and you had a nice speech there.
I've given too many speeches at those things.
I know. I don't know how you do that. It's quite incredible when you don't write it down, you don't practice it, you just speak from the heart, and you're able to keep it together in that moment, and I really don't know how you do that.
Because I think if I wrote it down, then it would be... Sure. That's when I would lose it, because I would read ahead from where I am and lose it. Mm-hmm. If I just talk, then I can kind of pause myself and I can move on or go off on a tangent and something else.
So at this point, you are 29.
29.
29 years old.
Lost everything.
Lost most things.
Lost everything from my childhood. How about
lost a lot of family. But that was a few years ago.
Yeah.
And recently, you did some self-awareness, some reflection. You had a moment of clarity, if you will, that you were not happy in the right mental space. How would you describe it?
It's not so much happy. I had almost the self-awareness that, you know, something's not right with how I'm emotionally functioning, how my mind is functioning and everything else. I kind of then started to deep dive from that to see if I can figure out if this is, you know, caused by something. Trying to figure out what this could be. You know, this isn't the first time I've felt this way. It's just the first time I've tried to actually do something about it.
So you do your research, you do a lot of reading, you do a lot of
listening a lot of podcasts, honestly.
To podcasts with doctors, and you come across the term
highly functioning depression.
Depression.
High functioning
depression. So
which the easiest way to describe it is just you're kind of just almost mute to everything. You don't have high happies, you don't have sad lows, you just fly somewhere in that gray area in between. And that was what kind of made me finally take a look at this, is that we just had friends out here and we're all sitting there around the fire joking and laughing, and I'm literally focusing on the fire. I can hear all the background noise and I chime in from time to time, but I am having this really weird, like, self-awareness thing, like out-of-body experience to the whole, like, I'm not even
really
fully here right now. Like, my brain is somewhere else. I'm not fully paying attention. I'm just kind of going through the motions, so to speak, right now. And it's reading all these things, listening to all these things, listening to the symptoms and everything else. It's like, shit, I've been dealing with this for years. I've been just living this, you know, wake up, do my thing, go home, do it all over again for years.
And not vocal about it with me.
No, not at all. It's emotion stuff. I don't like being, I'm not a vulnerable person 90% of the time. I don't like it. And being forced to be so vulnerable through all this sadness and everything else with what has gone on in the past couple years, it made it even harder, because you sit there and I'm supposed to be beyond devastated. I'm supposed to not have words. I'm supposed to really be interacting with family members or even with you, like discussing how I'm feeling and everything else, and I couldn't. It was like, light bulbs there, nobody's home type of thing. Just going through it. Yes, devastated. Yes, all the emotions, but I was having those moments on my commute to work.
Privately.
Or coming home from work, where I'll just be driving and I will just lose it. And it's still, I could have easily called you or come home and talked to you about it. I never did. Mm-hmm. So it's all of these key things to how I have been handling situations and dealing with all of these issues that have happened throughout my life. The more I listen to how this type of depression works, the more it became more and more clear of, that's definitely what I've been dealing with. It's like I'm still getting up, crack of dawn every day, working my ass off, coming home.
After it. You're likable. It's not...
That's the funny one. I'm likable. I don't even like people when I'm likable.
But it's not necessarily always where you're going to be like a recluse and try and hurt it. And you're still social, and you still go out and about, and you still want to have those experiences, but you are pushing down real emotion over and over and over. It's
like, it's that saying, you're putting on a brave face. It's kind of just doing that every day. Mm-hmm. Whether it's with work, whether it's, going out and doing something with family, friends, doesn't really matter. It's you're just masking and hiding what's, the turmoil and the actual like war that's going on inside of you, as you're trying to combat all of this just negative shit that's going on.
So, I think that grace is really something that should be present with this, because it's not as if it was a normal grieving process.
Not even in the slightest.
Because we are talking almost to the day from Mom passing to Grandpa getting his diagnosis, 2 months. Yep. 2 months of time that you may have gotten to think about it here and there, to process it here and there, because you started a new job almost immediately.
Yep.
So you quit 2 jobs, started 1 job. So now you're commuting to LA. Mm-hmm. I've taken over the Peyton handling.
Pickups and drop-offs for school.
Drop-off school. All of that. I've moved in with you. Uh-huh. So those are 3 really big things that happen right after the biggest thing that just happened.
Yeah. And it kind of... It's so hard to describe, like, all of it together, because it's like I said, you're feeling all these things. It's just... You're feeling them in a cloud. Mm-hmm. It's, hazy. It's not normal how you should be feeling it.
Right. Also think something that you adopt from your mom is not putting that burden. That, one, you didn't have somebody in your life to put that burden on, and you're not used to that, being me, obviously. And 2, that you didn't want to seem like a burden. Like, oh, well, Taylor's already dealing with X, Y, and Z. She's taken on these new responsibilities, so I'm going to hold on to this so I don't put more on her.
Well, and you also, you hit the nail on the head even at the beginning of all of this, talking about, like, I'm a 6'5", like, large individual going through mental issues and emotional issues like this is, they're not normal for somebody like me to talk about.
There is so much value in normalizing it, because you are not the only one to ever feel this way.
No.
And
not at all.
You're not the only one to ever try and take it all on and not put that on a partner, a friend, a family member, whoever that person's pillar is.
Yeah.
That this conversation is so important for men and mental health to be vulnerable like that. I was heartbroken when you told me that. I mean, you told me in a grocery store, and I was crying next to the frozen potatoes.
I felt like it'd be a little bit easier to take in if we were in public, because then you couldn't fully lose your shit.
Honey, you tell me wherever you want. The fact that you said self-aware, and that is like one of the things I look for in my coaching is self-awareness. Like, I want you to understand your place in your own life, and you were so self-aware in that moment. You're sitting with friends and feeling out of body and feeling like the world's moving around you and you're going slow, and you take action. Like, I say this all the time, action cures everything, and you take action by being reflective, looking up information, listening to things, taking on a label to it that resonates with you, and then bringing it up to me. And it was just like this moment of pride, heartbreak and pride at the exact same time, that I was just so freaking proud of you for speaking your truth and saying your story. Like I say, your story is your superpower, and you have such an incredible story in your short life that you being able to be vulnerable and aware of what you're feeling and how you want to feel, right? Like, you are aware of how you feel right now, and you're aware of how you want to feel, and there's a gap there that you know that needs work.
Oh, no. Yeah. Like you said, it's the self-awareness to it. It's, finally vocalizing the fact of, yes, I have an issue, and now I got to figure out how to get past it, because I can't keep living like this. There's only one way for me to go, and I have to go past this and go up. The other way is not an option. It's unfortunate that most people think that the other direction is the only option. It's not. You gotta talk about it with somebody.
And there's so many varying degrees of this, right? And where mental health, it's like you can't even compare somebody else's journey to your own, because there's so many variables involved. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that people will hear a story on here and then hear you talking about high-functioning depression is like, well, duh. Like, of course you feel that. You know what I mean? Like, of course you need time to process it. Of course you need to talk about it. Of course you need therapy or whatever it is that you decide is going to work for you. I love that you immediately took action of what can I control right now? How can I impact my life right now? The conversation that happened in the grocery store, we moved from the frozen aisle to toiletries, is that you want to move your body more. Mm-hmm. You want to bring fitness back into your lifestyle. You're an athlete your whole life, and it was the
sports. The simplest thing of what, like you said, what can I control now? And there were two things that I came up with. It was trying to be more vulnerable and talk to you about it more. Doesn't matter the time of day. If something comes up, talk to you about it. Don't keep it in. Just be open, honest, and real about it. Okay, that's one. It's easy in thought, but a little bit harder in practice, and I'm trying to do better with it. The other one was, health. That became an easy one to look at to try to change, because it's, well, if I can change my day-to-day kind of mental health, whether that is, going on the tread or going on the bike or getting out and doing something else. I mean, if it wasn't cold as balls right now, we would kayak, but it's just getting out and, like you said, move your body around, do something else. That, what I've already been doing this past week has already helped exponentially, because it's given me a different goal to focus on. To where I'm not sitting there every day, banging my head against the table, trying to make myself feel better, trying to get better, everything else, where I can set a realistic goal of, I can put so much now thought process into this thing that may seem so simple to somebody, but to me, that's the thing keeping me sane right now.
Absolutely.
And not overthinking, overanalyzing, and just being in this exact moment of, that's this little short-term goal that I have. Let's get to this point and figure out the next step.
So one of the things that I coach on is building blocks, right? Like building steps. And really appreciated that your plan didn't go from 0 to 100. That I'm going to do this every day and I'm going to do that every day. And, and you're just piling on all of these expectations where you really did vocalize, I want to get better at talking to you about it. And then I want to see if therapy is right for me. Now, you've had some bad experiences with court-appointed therapy in your past.
The one time I went.
You have to start small and build that confidence, right? And like you building that confidence by getting more comfortable with calling me. And that has happened in this past week. You have been very vulnerable and like, hey, I'm feeling this right now. Hey, I'm thinking I wish I could call mom right now. Hey, I just had this moment at a gas station. Like, you have been more open, and that's building that muscle so that when and if the day comes that therapy is something, and I'm a big advocate of that, and so are a lot of our friends that deal with mental health and my mom, and that you have now exercised this muscle of being able to speak your truth over and over, and it just is something that happens. And it's not that you have to overthink it, which is what you have been doing for the past 3-4 years.
And however long before that, probably.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we talk about that a lot. Like, we're in our heads.
Yeah.
That you have lived in your head for so long that it's time to live outside, be more vocal about how you feel. So you created that. You said, the health aspect, which there's so many arms to health, right? So that's how you eat, how you move your body, getting in that sexy time is great for your health. I don't know why I made that a song.
Yeah, why do you have to make that so weird?
I don't know. Okay, should I just say it like a normal person?
Yeah.
Okay, have sex.
There you go.
Have more sex.
Good more?
Have more sex. Have really good sex. So that is a branch of wellness too, right?
Yeah.
And then speaking your truth is a branch of wellness. Having goals is a branch of wellness. Building confidence, pushing through all of the doubt, all of those things are arms of wellness. And you saying what it is that you're going through, what your plan is, I just hope you know how proud I am of you, because again, this is a very tough subject for anyone to talk about, but I think that while there's a ton of expectations put on women, that with men specifically, you have to be a big bad wolf all the time.
Change the subject. We've talked too much now about me, and I'm not a fan of it. So we got to go on to the next segment.
This is a real heavy subject that we can just acknowledge, one, needed to be talked about. Two, I'm so proud of you for being the one to have this conversation. And
Yeah,
I know that it's
so
gonna
many people are going to know about my
resonate
issues.
with a lot of people. So, but I think ending on something fun is the best way to go out. I'm going to do some rapid fire. These are questions that came from Instagram. So are you ready? It's rapid.
So, like, first thing in my head,
Yes.
rapid?
Yep. Okay, most annoying habit I have.
Your TikTok addiction.
Your favorite thing about me.
But,
What is something the internet doesn't know about me?
like, your 17 different personalities?
What is my favorite thing about you?
I'm very tall.
What makes us a solid couple?
We're both batshit crazy.
What is something cute that I do that always makes you smile?
Probably all your stupid little pet names, because you come up with new ones constantly. Or Your pet name's for the dog.
Oh, that's cute. What's the most romantic thing I've ever done for you?
By bombarding me with super sweet stuff that involved, like, my mom and everything, like, right before we were supposed to get married.
What's the most romantic thing you've ever done for me?
I don't know. I put a ring on it. Does that count?
Okay, so the most romantic thing is my bonus mom, who is no longer with us. I was given her ashes because they were going to be spread. And I was given her ashes to take what I wanted of them. So I wanted a piece, I wanted my aunt to have a piece, and I wanted my grandfather to have a piece. So Dustin and I are together, and I bought these beautiful little urns, and we go to put her in the tiny version, and the sounds of just like the ashes and everything hitting the metal just threw me. And I had to leave, and he fully just took over and did that for me. And that was just like one of the most romantic things that I could lean on. You know, it's like that ebb and flow of relationships that I was talking about with Brea, that right now you're in a season where you're leaning on me. And that was a situation that I needed to lean on you. And one of the most romantic things you've ever done.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I know this was a heavy episode, but baby...
Sorry, everybody.
Thank you for joining me today and for your vulnerability, honesty, and openness about the struggles of life and continuing to keep hope and faith that will immerse stronger, more resilient, and like I always say, your story is your superpower. So you sharing your story today, I know will impact others to reflect on their own story and find their own voice. I love you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here. Maybe if I'm on again, we can talk about happy things.
Yes.
And not, what's wrong with you, babe?
We definitely will. All right, it is time for our quote of the episode, and I chose this one to speak directly to anyone out there who's a little bit cracked but not broken. This quote is actually from Unknown, and I am dedicating it to my listeners who are feeling a bit lost and need some words to help find their way. Here's the quote. I am bent but not broken. I am scarred but not disfigured. I am sad but not hopeless. I am tired but not powerless. I am angry but not bitter. I am depressed but not giving up. Take that into your week. You may be cracked, but you are not broken. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for being in my community. I'm so glad you showed up today, and let's go get there. Look at you, crushing it. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Tailor Made Tasty podcast. My hope is you always leave with a takeaway to implement in your own goal-crushing journey. I would love if you could take a moment to leave a review. And if you're looking for a community of goal boss badasses just like you, be sure to check out tailormadetasty.com/membership.